Today's project is this desk behind me. Now I had a horrible paint job, but it was done by me. I shouldn't say horrible, but I painted it for my son about 3 years ago. It's a Pottery Barn, so it's not real wood. I did all the proper steps, but it's really before I honed my painting skills and I have a little bit more knowledge now. So I used Fusion's mineral paint, which I love, but in this particular case, it didn't hold up as well as I was hoping. So I primed it, I painted it, I used their tough coat, but you know, desks get a lot of wear and tear, you know, things moving around on them. And so you can tell it has some chips in different areas. Now I've used Fusion on other pieces in my home, like I have a secretary that I used it on and it has held up beautifully. And so I just think with heavy use pieces, you have to be careful what kind of paint you use. So I'm gonna keep it. We are creating kind of like a office studio in a room upstairs. So it's gonna be in between two bookcases. I'm gonna create kind of a seamless look. I'm gonna paint them all the same color. So I'm gonna just go ahead and redo it. So I'm gonna sand it down, reprime it, paint it, use a different paint. I'm gonna use more of an industrial type of paint that I think will hold up a little bit better for a heavy use area. So here we go.
So as you can see, all the little scratches and dings and chips on it. I obviously did brush and roll it, so there is some texture on it that I'm going to have to sand down as well, as best as I can. The primer I used was white, which is not best when you're using a really dark paint. So that's why you can see all of the little nicks and things so much. So that's the primer underneath it. So I'm just going to get it cleaned up. I'm going to have to sand back quite a bit of that paint job, and then I'll go in with a fresh prime and get it repainted. I'm going to sand it out with a 180. This is my Festool ETS 125. Now I seem like I have a lot of swirl marks, more so than normal. I've turned down the dust collector all the way, so there's not very much suction on it. I don't really know why I get so many swirl marks. If anybody has any suggestions for me, you can put them in the comments. So after that, I'm going back through and just hand sanding out. I don't want to get any more swirl marks. Sometimes that's just easier and faster. So I'm going to do 180, clean it all off, and then see if I have any other areas I need to come back and smooth out. Because I do have some texture on the top, and I'm just going to fill in some of those dips and valleys. So because I'm using it more as a wood grain fill, I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of water to it. I don't have a precise measurement. At first it was a little runny, so I added some more and tried to get a good consistency. After that dries, I'm just going to give it a really good sand, and this is going to hopefully help me get a really nice smooth surface when I go to prime and paint. I had an area in one of the filing cabinets that really had a big chunk missing out. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with some wood filler. This is JB wood filler. It works very similar to Bondo. It's a two-part system. You have the putty and then you have the hardener. You just mix them together and then you just apply it where you want it to go, let it set up. Then you can sand it and shape it however you need it to look. I'm going to use Zinger's 123 water-based primer, and it's already tinted gray. So if I was just painting the Pottery Barn fresh right out of the existing finish, I would use a shellac-based primer because that's more of a laminate feel, so it's going to really help with the adhesion. But because I already have the fusion on top of it, I didn't feel like I needed to go with the shellac-based primer. So if I have any areas where I feel like I might have problems with adhesion, I can always spray it with some spray shellac. I'm going to go ahead and use my siphon gun to spray the primer. It's a very easy to clean little spray gun that attaches to my air compressor. After that dries, I'm just going to go ahead and shoot it with 220. It seems like my first coat of primer just kind of helps me to see any kind of imperfections that need to be filled in. So I'll come back with some glazing Bondo and fill in any areas that need to be filled in before I do my second coat.
I have the second coat of primer on and I'm ready to pick my color. I really like the color behind me. This is Sherwin-Williams Homburg Gray. But the problem is I want to use a Benjamin Moore paint. Now I know that you can have them mixed and they have the formulas, but honestly, I just had Tricorn Black, which is a Sherwin-Williams color matched over at Benjamin Moore, and I painted it enough to know it wasn't the same color. It was definitely a lot more gray. So even though they say that they have their formulas, they're not always accurate. So I would probably prefer to actually choose a color in that line if possible. So since I'm going with Benjamin Moore paint, I went to look at their colors, and then I went to the depths of the internet and did a ton of research on similar colors. So I found one that was very similar, and it's called Millstone Gray. It's this middle one, and it has a LRV, which is the light reflective value, how much light is reflected off of the paint. So the lower the number, less light is reflected, higher the number, more light is reflected. But this one has a LRV of 16.9. This one behind me is 15. So very similar. If I wanted to go one step lighter, they have the Intrigue, and it has an LRV of 24. So I'm just trying to decide, because in the room, it's going to be on one big wall. I have some bookcases that I'm going to put in there, paint them the same color, make it look built in. I'm going to add some trim and built them in. The desk will be in the middle, and then the wall behind it will also be the same color. So it's in a southwest facing room, so it does get some good light. I just don't want to go too dark, but I don't want to go too light either. So I want it to look kind of like a little bit moodier. So I've done a lot of research. I type in hashtags into Instagram. I do Pinterest searches. In an ideal world, I would get a sample pot and sample it on the piece, but I tend to not do that. I tend to just jump in and go on paint chips and my depths of research. So here we go.
I'm going to do another scuff sand after my second coat of primer, and then I'll be ready to move on to my paint. So for the paint, I decided to go with Intrigue. So it's the lighter color. I just felt it had a bit higher LRV. So that's what I ended up going with. I'm just going to go ahead and load up. Now I'm going to switch over to my Erlex 5700 and I'm going to spray my first coat. I normally put screws in backwards on the hardware holes, but this one, the hardware holes didn't go all the way through. So I put a little bit of tape at the very top, and that's going to act as a handle during the painting process. So for the drawers, it's amazing what a little bit of cardboard can do. I just place the cardboard and then I can use my spray gun. Now, I just completely forgot. You really need to use painter's tape on the edges so that you don't get any paint overspray. I forgot to tape my drawers off, so you'll see I got some paint on it. I have to come back really quick, get it off, and then I will go ahead and apply my painter's tape, and then I can continue finishing up the spray on the edges. So after my first coat of paint, you can see I just felt like there was a lot of texture to the surface, especially on the top of it. I don't know, it was rough to the touch, and there's just a lot, it's not very smooth. And so I don't know if it was I Googled it, and then some people said the pressure on your gun is too low. It's hard to adjust. I only have a 2 turbine spray gun. So what I decided overnight, I was thinking about it, and I remembered you can use Floetrol, and that is an additive that will just kind of help you eliminate some of the brush strokes, because this paint dries really fast. And so I think it was just drying so fast that it was kind of giving me some orange peel kind of texture. And so actually it ended up working out really well.
So you might know I love campaign furniture. This desk is a great candidate to turn it into a campaign desk. And you really just need to add some brass accents. So I found these cool corner brackets, and I'm spraying all the hardware the same color so that it's cohesive, because it comes in 3 different colors. But I found these, and they're gonna go on the edge of the desk. And then I found these, and they're gonna go along the front on the sides. So I'm gonna turn it into a campaign desk. Let's try it.
For the side hardware, I use my little drill just to make a tiny little mark on it. And then I'm going to pull the piece away, and I'm going to drill just a little bit further in. And that's just going to help me later when I go to actually nail those pieces in. I'm going to hold the little nail with my needle nose pliers. I'm going to use a small hammer, and I'm just going to hammer it in. You have to be really careful with the paint around it. You don't want to be, hitting your paint. You'll either dent your piece, or you could scuff and mar up your paint job. So you have to be really careful. This is a really, I would consider it more of an industrial type of paint, so it's a really hard finish. So I had no problems with it. This process, though, took me forever. It was probably, a couple hours to apply all of this hardware. If I was selling it, I don't know that it would be worth it, but since this was for me, it was worth it. Okay, let's look back at the before. This desk, my goodness, I've probably had this maybe 15 plus years. This is Pottery Barn. I believe it's their Bedford series, and it has moved with me many times. But, the last paint job, my son was a little rough on it, but I knew it still had a lot of life in it. And so I thought, let's just try to revamp it again and see if I can give it another life. So after a lot of sanding and filling and painting, here is the finished product. What do you think? I think it turned out really good. I am glad I chose the lighter color. When I first started painting it, I was like, oh, I should have gone darker. But once it's all together, I'm really glad I went with the lighter. This is the Intrigue. I think it looks really good. I wasn't sure with the brass if it would pop enough, but it's dark enough, provides enough contrast. But I really love the addition of the brass accents. I think it really makes it look a little bit more custom and a little bit more high end. Especially, I really like the ones on the corners, just putting those little things on the corner just makes it look a little more special. So I think it's going to look really good in the space. Have you ever tried this? Have you ever used the brass accents to try to turn something from just a plain thing into campaign? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching.